1541. Francisco de Coronado, along with 30 horsemen, and Juan de Padilla, Padilla was a Franciscan friar, proceeded to the land of the Indians in Buffalo. De Coronado was searching for the riches of Quivara. He didn't find gold. He found some Indian trails, but he probably wasn't interested in them. They were trails that led both east and west, toward buffalo hunting grounds and rivers. This is Wanderlust in Kansas. Before Kansas became a state, there were many discussions and arguments about whether the territory should become a slave state or a free state. After all the disagreements, debates, squabbles, and compromises, Kansas was admitted as a free state. Kansas was west. It was cattle country. Cattlemen drove tremendous herds to and through famous Kansas cow towns. Wichita and Abilene were on the Chisholm Cattle Trail. Traders passed through the outstretched valleys and across the frontier plains on their way to Santa Fe. Emigrants passed through to Oregon, gold seekers to California and Colorado, hunters, trappers, missionaries, and soldiers. The Kansas land, which had been used by cattlemen, was open for settlement under the homestead laws. It offered free land to settlers. People looked forward to homesteading opportunities. Now, about the time the settlers came to claim the land, which they had filed for the preceding fall, was about 20 years after statehood. Homesteaders arrived in Benkelman, Nebraska in emigrant trains that would be made up of perhaps 20 or so freight cars and a passenger car. The people left Benkelman. They traveled southwest into Kansas. Sod houses were scattered all around the prairies. Benjamin Bird arrived in northwest Kansas 3 years before the land became available for homesteading. It was 1882. Bird was a successful cattleman. He was president of the Northwest Cattle Company, and they built a town on land owned by Benjamin Bird and named it Bird City. There weren't well drillers in the county that could put down deep wells, and the people who lived thereabouts would have to travel several miles to a spring. They'd fill their wooden barrels with water. Now, when the barrels became dry, the staves would shrink and the water would leak out so many times, by the time they got home from a 5-mile water jaunt, half their water would have leaked out along the trail. The people around Bird City were eager for rain. They needed it for crops, and for the buffalo wallows too, so that the stock would have water. Finally, a well drilling company did come to town. They dug a well. It stood, and windmill and all, in the center of town. A deep well with good water. Bird City was originally the temporary county seat for Cheyenne County. That was 1886. The commissioners purchased a courthouse that they had planned to be the permanent county seat, but the people of Cheyenne County were perturbed about it, and they voted to move the county seat away from Bird City. On a Saturday night in March of 1922, Bird City suffered a disastrous fire. The Oddfellows Hall and Opera House were totally destroyed. The town had its good days, too. One memorable day was on the last day of August, 1927. Lindbergh had returned from his flight across the Atlantic. All the people in town were on the football field as Lindbergh acknowledged Bird City with a special welcome from the spirit of St. Louis above. This has been Wanderlust in Bird City, Kansas.